Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone, so we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Don't Blame Me, the greatest podcast. With every other podcast we make, we're just so good. If you didn't know, my name is Megan. I'm joined by my co-host, Melissa, and you might recognize us from billboards across the country of the best people ever.
Very creative, but what else are you going to say?
I don't know. The Adderall hasn't kicked in yet. What are their other accolades?
I mean, if you say best people ever, that covers everything, really.
It does. It truly does. Gold medal Olympians. We're both gold medal.
I forget.
I know.
You know, once you win one, it's just like
you've won them
whatever.
all. Like it's like you know what I use them as? Coasters. I have so many.
You know, thinking of gold medal Olympians, Serena Williams recently. I don't know if you follow her on the TikToks, but she went to a skating rink, and she was like, "I haven't skated in 20 years, but I'm about to beat everybody." When they do, you know, like the little games that they have skating at skating rinks. First of all, she almost slipped even starting, and she came in almost dead last. And I was just like, just think about the people there. They may not know because she was wearing a mask, unlike most of the people there, but they just beat Serena Williams in a sport. You would not, if I were there, you wouldn't be able to tell me shit if I could skate. I can't skate, so I would have been right along with her.
Same.
But like...
I would have helped her not be dead last. Yeah. I would have been my community service.
Like, just think of the stories for the rest of your life. Because it's at that skating rink that so many people go to in LA that's in all the movies.
The only one we have.
Yeah.
No, but like you can't tell, like the straight white boys are going to be like, I mean, she's not that good of an athlete. I beat her. And they're not going, unless like gun to their head, they're not going to clarify it was ice skating. They will never admit.
It wasn't ice skating, it was roller skating.
Roller skating. They'll never admit that it was roller skating because like they're never going to admit that they're like fantastic at roller skating and that like they're going to be like, no, the implication is I beat her at her own game. And it's like, oh, you beat her roller skating? Like, but no, I would be the same way. I would love to be like, I see those TikToks of like everybody like wearing bell bottoms and like roller skating. I'm like, look how cute you are. Except I am traumatized because the first time that I fractured my tailbone was rollerblading and I fell.
I thought it was from a horse, or was that your foot?
That was my foot. That too strong. No, first time with the tailbone was roller skating. And I had the cutest outfit too. Like I was my friend's birthday party. Like there's a whole picture of us and I'm like, I was like serving a vibe. I was wearing wide leg bell bottom pants that were like pinstriped and this like tight little like shiny like turquoise top. And I had like my transition lenses and like I was just like looking real cute. It was a vibe. And I was like drinking like a Hanson's organic soda and it was a birthday party drink. And the second time was when we had these fucking death traps on playgrounds, which half the time I'm like, who the fuck designs these playgrounds? A, why are there wood chips? Yeah. Why am I falling in them and getting splinters? Like this seems like such a stupid thing. Like they're like, well, we don't want it to be sand because animals will pee in it. I'm like, or I will have 900 splinters. Like, what do you mean that's the alternative?
I remember when that switch happened in the playground. I was there during the switch of it all. Mm-hmm. Awful. And I think the switch happened while I was living in Texas as well. So those chips were getting hot. Like they would burn. Like burn.
Yeah. It's like getting impaled with like a hot, like whatever. What is it? Soldering knife? Is that like that? It's like literally like you're getting impaled by like something fucking hot. So bad. And then they had these things. It was like these dangerous fucking like playground rides where I'm like, who came up with this? And it was this thing that kind of looked like an upside down sorry playing piece, or no, maybe a right side up. Like if a sorry playing piece was stacked on top of each other. I don't know
what that is.
Like kind of like a Hershey's Kiss. So it kind of has that, like, but there's like a little ball on the top. And so that's like a diamond kind of shape or whatever, but it's like flatter in the middle.
I'm sorry, but diamonds are very unique and distinctive. So I need you to be better about this.
Okay. Imagine it's two of these little things kind of like stacked, but it's flatter in the middle. And so you sit on it and then people spin it and you just hold on and hope you don't fly the fuck off. And like naturally, you do fly off and like they're never in the middle. They're always like near shit. So then you fly into like wood chips or you fly onto the asphalt. And I flew into the asphalt and then I cracked my tailbone again. And because that was not so long, I think it was probably like a year or 6 months after the first time I did it. Then a little piece broke off and has been floating in my body ever since. No. I know. I had to walk around 6th grade with already transition. So here's some of the things I did to myself. Transition lenses, I did to myself because I desperately wished I could break my arm so I could have a cast, I could have braces, or I could have glasses. But naturally, I fucking got glasses, which is the only thing that you can't fix ultimately. And I wore a tiara every day. Also my doing. Rainbow thigh high toe socks with platform flip-flops. Also my doing. My fashion sense, my doing. What I did not pick was on top of all of that, I had to walk around in 6th grade with a fucking donut-shaped pillow that I had to bring to class to sit on in all of my classes because I couldn't sit on my tailbone for that long. So that's why I can't rollerblade or roller skate anymore.
Gotcha. But also, I don't think it's a good thing for you anyway. You probably fall a lot. And the bruises.
I know. You should have seen the bruise when the tailbone went away. Oof. But I think that's part of why I can't twerk.
Because of your tailbone?
Yes.
I feel like that would make it better.
If it was sheer will and determination, like I would already be there.
Okay.
I'm not born with it.
That's why you can't do it. Okay. That's why you can't do it. You're right, Megan.
If it was something I could control, I would do it.
Okay. So what is the show?
This is a show where I just talk about my tailbone injuries and wish that I had an ass. No, this is an advice podcast.
All right, then we're done.
The end. Goodbye. We give wonderful, life-changing, amazing advice. And you might be wondering, how are these two supermodels, Nobel Peace Prize winning authors and doctors and athletes, how are they qualified to give advice? And it is because A, we are all of the things, and also what we lack for in credentials, we make up for in
opinions.
Unlike assholes, I have more than one. Do you think people have more than one asshole? Because you can have like 2 uteruses and like 2 vaginal canals.
Let me Google it. Yes, you can. Huh. It's an extremely rare disorder. It's called, even though it's in your butt, it's called penile duplication. Oh, no, it's 2 different things. You can have 2 penis holes and you can also have 2 anal holes.
Huh. Where's the other penis hole? So do you think that's kind of more, well, I guess if it's only 2, then it's not like...
It's a malformation, like double bladder. I'm actually reading a medical paper, so it might take me a while to answer your question, but follow up later.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, yeah, we're going to give wonderful, amazing advice. And if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, you can leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. We ask that you are 18 or over, have your parents' permission, and you let us know your age when you are giving us the call. We also ask that you write it down so you can practice and get everything you want to say out there. Let us know your age, your pronouns, if it's about a relationship, how long you've been together, the ages of other people involved in the story. And the more details and the more specific you can be in those relevant details, the better advice we can give you. But it's hard to kind of just do that off the top of your head. So if you've listened to the show before, you'll listen and be like, wow, those are some really good calls. Those are the calls that people wrote down what they were going to say, practiced, they edited it, figured out what they needed to add, what they needed to take away, and then just timed it out so they could keep it under 3 minutes and then just read it on the call. It's quite easy. Yeah, let us know if you're sensitive. We will keep that in mind, but ask yourself this question. If you did something, how sensitive are you if you did something that was bad? You know, it's not going to get you. It's not a get out of jail safe, free.
Some people will get out of jail free. Some people say that even if it's not something that they didn't do, but it's still a fail-safe.
Well,
today we have an update.
The crowd goes wild.
Oh, here's one. Hold on. Ready? Yeah, it goes on for 30 more seconds, so I cut it out.
Well, we all know you're actually listening to this in your headphones at work or you are in your car. So the acoustics would probably not be that good. And it's more of the silent celebration. So, and just a little bit, because I just love to know what you are all doing when I just say penis, 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 fuck, 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 fuck. And then you just like enjoying it, listening in your headphones, smiling, your boss walks by.
I apologize to anyone watching that just saw me get this deep chill that snuck up on me.
Where can people watch this?
They can watch this on patreon.com. The link to that is in the show notes. So click there and you can watch the show for $1 a month.
$1?
Or if you want to participate in our live streams, then $5 a month. And that includes watching the show. We do live streams twice a month. This month we're doing 3 because last month we were both sick and I was gone for half the month, but we're back on it.
We're back on our bullshit. It's so much fun. We have such a great time. Like we've literally become friends with everybody in there, and like we know I won't say everything about each other's lives, but like it's exciting. It's like a very fun community. I'm not going to sell it for like, oh, you get to hang out with Melissa and I, but like everyone else, like we don't
get to hang out with everybody.
I was going to say, like, if we don't even need to be there because like everybody just gets along and like talks and hangs out with each other, which is a fun thing. So if you're looking to make some friends and just have some like social interactions, it's a great thing. And if you have incredibly deep pockets and you're like, you know what, I want to see this show succeed. I want Meghan and Melissa to be able to pay their bills and I want this show to thrive. And again, you got deep pockets. Do you work for Netflix? First of all, shoot us an email. We'd love to pitch some things, specifically Hulu. But Netflix, we're not going to turn it down.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to turn it down.
We'd prefer Hulu, but if you work at Netflix, that's okay too. Like, we're cool with that. But you got deep pockets. You can give us more than $5 a month.
Netflix pockets, as far as like
they
the
got
company
holes.
as a whole, a little shallow.
Those pockets they're big pockets, but like there's a hole in those pockets.
But they pay people. Yeah, they pay a lot of people a lot of money.
And for your 6 months that you work there.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, let's get on into the update.
Hello, I am from the episode my aunt said I stole from my cousin on March 28th. Basically, I just had the problem and idea that I needed to break up with my boyfriend of a year, and we also lived together, so it was quite the experience. We had a lot of differences, and I had just decided that I just wasn't happy anymore. Even though we lived together, I didn't feel like lying to him anymore. So that's what I did. I'm here to give an update because I did indeed break up with him. I did it about like a week or two. It wasn't very long after the episode came out because it had been a whole conversation like with my friends, and then I told all my friends that I went on the podcast, and I did it about a week or two. I think that I was honestly more distraught than he was, which was kind of hurtful in a way, but I just kind of like had the conversation. I was pretty honest about things. I basically like told him the reason was that I felt like his mother, and he did not cry once. I was crying the whole time. I guess mostly just because I felt bad. I knew it was right, like the right thing to do, but I don't know. And so we just like had like a long conversation, and he was pretty open about things. And I mean, we kind of had to be, considering we still live together. And he just explained that he thought we should have talked about things before they got to this point. And I said, I feel like I have, and that's why I am at this point. So I disagree. But yeah, it went okay. But like I said, I was a little hurt that he didn't seem to like show any emotion, but sometimes I just feel like that's how guys are, unfortunately. So I did that. We still live together. It's been pretty okay. It's definitely a learning curve for sure. I don't have much time left. Our lease ends at the end of this month, so almost there. And yeah, it's been pretty okay. I feel like I've been super respectful of him and his space. I can't say he's been the same, considering he's come home with hickeys twice, so that's been fun. Yeah, so definitely an interesting experience. I don't regret it, but I also just wish that we didn't live together in the first place. But, you know, you live and you learn. So
would you say that like you have had to be like, because like this is like a thing that fucking happens, is like we date men and then like we become their mothers, and like they are like, I don't know how to do anything, like blah blah. And you're like, no, you like lived before me, like you know how to like do like all that shit. So like have you seen that where it's basically kind of like, why couldn't you have like done this shit when we were together? Like, do you know what I mean? Like in that kind of sense?
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly, if anything, it's made me like more confident in my decision, because I still hear him like literally like going to his mom for things. And so like, I'm like, okay, like you literally have nothing went in the brain for sure. So yeah, if anything, it like made me more confident in it, because like, I just like want to find someone like that doesn't, I don't know. I just like felt literally like a mother, and he still like calls his mom to like help him with like his resume. And like when I was asking him about moving, I was like, oh, like what are your plans, like where you're going, you know, because we still have conversation, like we sleep in the same bed, like it's you know
it happens.
So like we still like we were really close, so like it doesn't feel awkward. A lot of people ask like, oh, is it awkward? I'm like, not really, like it's just like you kind of live with it. But yeah, I still hear him like ask his mom for stuff, and I was like, oh, what's your living plans? And he was like, oh yeah, I found this place, blah blah blah. And I was like, oh, like where'd you find it? And he was like, I don't know, my mom found it. And I was like, it's good.
Can you remind me how old y'all are?
I'm 20. I turned 21 in 2 weeks, and then he's 21. Yeah.
I mean, if I were you, this would also make me much more confident in my decision, because like it would be like, oh, this wasn't a personal choice that you made where like you were able to do all these things for yourself. You were self-sufficient. And then like as soon as you got with me, you were just like, oh, she'll do everything. And then it's like, oh, so you could do it, but you chose not to. And then it's like, oh, you can't do that. Like you're like, you just, and also like his mom's just continues by not making him do his own shit. She continues to enable him. And like, I saw this really great TikTok in heterosexual relationships, how we talk about what women do for the men is not how we talk about men, where it's like, oh, she's so good for him, like he's really settled down, like he's gotten so mature, like he's just like, you know, he's like ready for this, like blah, all of this kind of stuff. It's like no one says that, like, oh, you know, she's really like, he's really good for her, like he calms her down, like it's just like not how we talk about it at all. But so like she continues to enable him because she's banking on another woman being like, yeah, I will spend all this time to either become the next you, as like become his mom, or I will break all of that down. And then like that's a burden that no one should have to carry.
I think mostly because you said the thing like, oh, is he finally like trying to do things by himself? I just think that I didn't really realize it at the beginning of our relationship, because I was like so in love, like, you know, like the first like couple months of a relationship, you're just like so in love with the person that I didn't really realize how much I was doing or like what exactly I was doing. And so I think that like I said, I don't really regret it specifically for the fact that, like, I think if I didn't live with him, that I wouldn't have realized like the amount that I was doing, and then we would have gotten to the point where we were farther in the relationship and then moved in together, and I would have realized it, and then it would have been like a 3 to 5 year breakup rather than like a 1 year breakup, which I think would have been harder on everybody. So
yeah,
I don't really regret it, but yeah, he's been interesting to like live with, and the person, like I'm like 90% sure like I know who it is, and it like makes it even worse because it's like a friend I met through him. It's like his best friend's sister that lives around us, but I would consider me and the sister friends because we would hang out without him, but I met her through him. So after we broke up, she kind of just like stopped talking to me, but I'm like 90% sure, actually like 100% sure that it's her roommate that the Hickeys are from. So I just find that so interesting. Like, I'm not even mad at him because I'm like, he could do whatever he wants. I don't really care. But like, just the fact that it's her, I'm like, that is so messed up. That is so messed up.
I mean,
hate it.
To be fair, I would assume that she probably doesn't like it that much either. You know what I mean? Like, I think it'd be kind of gross. Like, if it was your sibling, like, I would hope that you'd be like, ew, why were you hooking up with my roommate?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to be fair, I also like, you're very young, and I think that like there is a learning curve that we all have in like adulthood. And I think that like, I'm sure people have probably given you the advice before, like, you need to date someone older. You're so mature for your age. Like, you've got this shit together. Like, that's never anything I would ever like recommend. Like, the thing that I say, like, if you're mature for your age and you're self-sufficient, which is something that I was told constantly and was also told to constantly, like, you just need to date someone older because like guys your age don't know, blah, blah, blah. No, the thing is like, have your standards, which you do, and like have like, these are my boundaries, these are my standards, and this is what I expect of like the person that I'm with. And not every guy is like that. There's a ton of like moms who enabled their sons, but then there's a lot who have like gone very much against that. And like, those are the people who you should be dating moving forward. And like, you know that now already. And I think that's a lesson that like, I think that I would have loved to learn much like when I like much younger. And like, I think it's a very important lesson to recognize that it's not your job to fix someone or to like make someone live up to your bare minimum standards and of expectations of being like self-sufficient and not needing to be someone's mom. Like, that's not something you should have to teach someone. And I think that like, if I was 20, I would have tried to teach someone that. And like, I think that like, I'm impressed that like you came to this realization, you acted on it, like stayed strong in your boundaries. And like, I think that's an incredibly good sign for like your future relationships, you know?
Yeah, thank you.
And also, this inspired a lot of people. We had a ton of calls after after this call that were in the same boat as you. And so I think that this update will also, if some people were on the fence or they haven't made the decision yet, or they are scared to do it, that this is a good update that can inspire other people.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, people tend to think, like, my therapist told me once, and it was like about me, like my own mental health and like struggles that I had, where she was like, if you could have done it, you would already have done it. And that sometimes in relationships, we have a hard time being like, well, maybe if I phrase it differently, he'll change. Like, maybe if I like, maybe it's in the way that I'm communicating it. And like, I think this is a perfect example of like, you communicated constantly, you tried like intervening in like the changing this, like pointing out these issues and all of that. And he still thought that didn't happen when it did. Yeah. But then also, like, you saw afterwards at the end of the relationship, it's like, oh, no matter what I was going to say, there was no way for me to say this that would click or make sense for you, because like, that's not where you're at in your life emotionally, like, and maturity wise, like, you're not there. And like, that's not something that I could change ever. Like, you know, so I think that will be really comforting to other people to kind of recognize too, that it's not on you. Once you've communicated it like a couple times, like the rest, like the change, that's on, if he wanted, like, if anyone, if you wanted to, you would have. If you were able to, you would have.
Yeah. That's what I always think too. I'm like, well, because I think the same thing. I like definitely shot myself down like throughout it, because I was like, well, I'm not like a perfect girlfriend either. But like in my eyes, or like when I had like friends telling me, they're like, what does he like bring to this? Like, what does he bring to the table? Because like, it's just looking like it's not an even process. And that's even when I said in the breakup, I said, I feel like relationships are like supposed to be like around 50-50 type of deal, and I feel like I was giving like 70, and like, you know what I mean, like I just felt like it wasn't like an even exchange. And you know, sometimes I get sad about it, but I turn 21 in 2 weeks. I go to Italy in exactly a month. So,
Okay,
Can't
hello.
wait for you. I cannot wait
Fucking
for you to
yes.
experience Italy.
I'm so excited.
Really experience
Sexually.
Italy.
Mhm. Yeah. All my friends
Experience
are like,
sexually.
you have to. I'm like, you know I will.
Yeah.
You don't have to convince me.
You have to get on the back of a Vespa. Like, you gotta. Like,
My first weekend is in Venice, so we're going to be doing that.
Oh my God. So fun.
I'm so excited.
I loved Italy. I went when I graduated from college. So I was 22, and it was no, I was 21 when I went. It was before I turned 22, and so it was life altering.
Yep.
Have fun.
That's the goal. Thank you so much.
Melissa, what the fuck? Did you go to like an orgy or some shit? Like, if anyone's watching the video, that face of Melissa was eye-opening. Okay.
I said life altering, not eye opening, but
oh, okay. That's
there's
kind
a lot
worse.
of eye closing.
Okay, for sure. Someone went to an orgy. Well, be safe.
Thank you.
You know, bring protection. And
COVID test
depending,
too.
Yeah, COVID test. And if you are on an oral contraceptive birth control,
that I am.
Switch the time change. Pay attention to the time change of when you take your birth control.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
People don't think about this.
Yeah.
Even when daylight saving times happens, like people don't even think about that. You should be
an
changing
hour.
the
You
hour.
don't necessarily have to.
Not
like daylight savings.
But if you were in like the 3-hour period and then you missed it and missed it by that 1 hour, it could make a difference.
So, but yeah, when it comes to time changes, I learned that as somebody who, if I like am even a day late on taking my period, like my body is like, you will bleed. So like but yeah, so change for the time change, and have so much fun. And we can't wait to, if you're in the Facebook group, we can't wait to like see pictures or hear stories, or if not, send us a DM.
I do need to, I need to, are you guys still like adding people to that, or how's that working?
Well,
not really.
We're not, but here's the thing. If someone we do an update with, like I like, like there is no fair process. Like if it's someone who like we've done an update with, I'm like, oh, I'll search for your name and I'll let you in. But like other people, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to read. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Okay, I'll join it today.
You know,
hopefully you see it.
It's like a exclusive membership. So like if you know somebody that can give a reference, then it helps.
Perfect.
Exactly.
This is
and
my
when we're
reference
giving,
right
this is the reference, and I'm like, okay, you can cut the line.
Yeah.
Sorry, life isn't fair. Oh, we'll have so much fun.
Thank you
and
so much.
we're so happy for you.
Thank you. I hope this inspires the people that called about it. Break up with him.
Dump him. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one and happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Woo. Bye. I think this is an inspirational and learning moment for everybody. And I wish I had that like thought process and maturity at that age. Like, I think it's incredible. And like something I've always said when it comes to like relationships, that I think when you deal with the bullshit early on, or like it feels like a lot of bullshit or like a lot of like shitty toxic relationship, like an onset of that, I think that you end up with who you want to be with or where you want to be quicker, because like you sift through that shit quickly. And then some people, the opposite end of it is they don't have those relationships. They have good relationships. And like those teachable moments, it always comes at some point, and those happen later. That's what I always tell myself, that I'm like, if I can sift through this bullshit now, it's inevitable that we all sift through it at some point. And like, I just like drew all these cards first, and like other people will draw them eventually, but like none of us avoid it. It just hits us at different points in our life. And I think this is a PSA to everybody, that you don't need to be your boyfriend's mom, your partner's mom at all. It's exhausting. Like,
clearly, this guy still has his mom still doing everything for him.
Yeah.
Hopefully he grows out of that at some point. Hopefully.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I always never want to blame women for doing this. But the thing that happens is like, it's this vicious cycle where their moms did it for them. And it starts from the assumed gender roles that are not brought on by women. Like those are brought on by the patriarchy. And like, but this is a perfect example of like the patriarchy makes us all suffer. Like ex-boyfriend, he's suffering too. Like this is something that you all have to unlearn. And like, this is something that Mott's had to Mats has had to unlearn. And like, even in the last weekend of doing handy stuff around the house, he was like, I feel like I'm in my 30s and I don't know how to do this shit. Like, and I was like, yeah, I mean, unless someone taught you how to do this, like, my belief system is either things are done for you, so you don't learn how to do it. Things are done for you where you participate and you are taught and you are helped, or those things never got done, so therefore you didn't learn how to do them. So like, he's learning about like cleaning and organizing and handy stuff because that stuff was like done for him and they could outsource that to like other people to do stuff. And then I was learning like how to clean and organize and do all that stuff because like I didn't grow up in like a clean house. Like I didn't grow up with people who did those things. And so then I also didn't know how. And so I think we all fall in some realm of that. And it's just about matching with who you want to do that together with, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody that balances you out, or you can pay somebody else to do it.
Exactly. And Mats and I are in the perfect in between of him being like, we'll just pay somebody else to do it. And then I will hyperfixate it on it for like 3 days and either be like, look, we didn't have to pay someone to do it. Or I will be like, you were right. I tried to do it and I couldn't do it. Let's pay someone else to do it.
Skills labor for a reason.
You're the one who always makes me like, reminds me that I can do that, where you're just like, anybody, if you need an inspirational Melissa moment, like it's like, I remember it was like planning for the move or whatever. And it was right after you had done your move and you were like, I'm busy. Like I have a job. Like I'm a professional woman. Like I'm a boss. Like I don't have time to do this shit. And like, there are people who are better. I'm better qualified at what I do than what these other people do. And if I do their job, it's going to take me longer than it would take them to do it. And they'll do a better job. And I was like, oh,
right.
You're right.
And then I also think about like, as far as if I do that too, and then I'm taking it away from my time that I would be working. And so the money, I calculate how much money that I pay them versus how much money I would be losing if I wouldn't be doing it. So
yep,
it makes sense.
Yep, it does.
And I usually, when I hire like a TaskRabbit or something, I usually hire like a woman or a person of color. So I was like, now I'm feeding into, hiring other people, and then they can do the same for things that it's just a cycle.
And you know what that is? That is trickle down economy. It is not what all the fucking Joe Rogan stands think it is. That is real trickle down economy. That's yep. Anyways, dump your boyfriend. And should we get onto the calls?
We shall.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm a 25-year-old using she, her pronouns, and I just started a new job that has literally everything I've ever wanted. Great pay and benefits, amazing culture, and real opportunity for growth. However, my team is located in Australia while I am in the States. I'm currently in talks to figure out relocating there, but I don't know how to manage my current romantic relationship with my 28-year-old boyfriend, he, him pronouns. We've been dating for a year and discussed marriage and kids and our future. And early on in the relationship, I made it clear that I wanted to move one day. Because even though we live in one of the most desirable cities in the U.S., I was born here and lived here my entire life and feel like my stagnant location is holding me back from being my full self. I also mentioned that I would love to live abroad considering policies in the U.S. When I was offered the job and they asked me to relocate, he avoided talking about it. Ultimately, we aren't engaged, so I would never miss out on a huge opportunity for someone I'm just dating. So I told him I would be moving, and he's been very negative about the idea. He says he wants to continue progressing our relationship, but thinks it's an unfair ask of him to move to Australia with me, which I could sponsor him for a visa that would allow him to work in Australia as well. My opinion is I make double his salary, and moving will give me even more growth opportunities. And if I was a man in the relationship, the expectation would be that my partner would follow me for my career. Not that that's wrong or right, but in my opinion, my opportunity to grow my career means an opportunity for us to grow our income. It's a good opportunity for us both. He's asked for time and wants to continue our relationship, but this feels like a red flag to me. I'm worried that he's viewing me as a piece to fit into his life puzzle rather than a partner, but don't know how to address that with him or how to move forward in the relationship when I feel like I'm being told to not advance in my career so he isn't inconvenienced. I love him, but I'm genuinely shocked at how little consideration he's given this move and can't tell if I'm being unreasonable or if this is a warning sign in the relationship. Am I being unreasonable? And how can I address this so we can get out of our current holding pattern of ignoring my upcoming move? Some background, I could stay in the U.S. for my role, but it would be incredibly difficult to manage my daily schedule and would limit my opportunities for growth. He would also be very capable of finding a job there and at a higher salary, even factoring exchange rates. And I definitely don't want to spend my entire life there and settle down. He knows that. He knows I have to be there for 4 years, and I could leave to the U.S. at any time to return to remote work. Anyway, I'd love to hear your opinions and advice. Thank you so much. Also, I'm a Virgo and he's a Gemini.
I don't necessarily think that this is a red flag per se, but you know, when you first start dating someone, you say things like, yeah, I would love to live in a different country. I don't like US policies, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think he took you seriously because it may have seemed like, you know, early relationship talking fodder type of things. But I do think that if you were being upfront and serious and letting him know that I definitely will be moving out of the country and he didn't listen to it, then that's a red flag. But like asking someone to move to a different country and upheave their whole life for 4 years is a...
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more, sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
To me, that is a really big ask. If that's not something that they want to do or ever saw themselves doing. And when you said that you guys were just dating, that made it seem like I know that moving to a new country and asking him to go with you is like a big commitment. And you said that, you know, if you were engaged, you wouldn't even consider it. But to me, this just seems a lot to ask somebody that you've been with for 1 year and you don't see yourself fully committed to them. Even though you have talked about big picture things, this is a lot for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean this in the kindest way possible. Like, I think your side of it is like a red flag, like to me, because like you were saying, like if I was a man, it would be expected. Like I would also think that's a red flag. Like I don't, I mean, and you know, you're a listener of the podcast, so you obviously know that like our belief system on that, but like that I wouldn't expect anyone to do that, but I also like really wouldn't recommend anyone to do that. And I say this from the perspective and point of somebody who is engaged, has been with their partner for a very long time. And we also talked about marriage and kids before we obviously got engaged. And before Mats and I got together, he had always, when we were just friends, he'd always talked about like, he had just like mentioned that he like wanted to like move back to Colorado. And that was something that before we got together, that was something that I asked him. I was like, you had mentioned a couple times before that like you had like wanted to move back to Colorado. And he was like, oh no, that's just kind of like, you know, wistful dreaming thing. Like I can't even be like, I go for Christmas and like, I can't, am I there for more than a week? Like I go like stir crazy. Like I love LA. Like it just, you know, that's like kind of like my response to being defeated. And he was like, why? And I was like, well, if we're going to pursue something, like that's not something that like I'm from California. Like, I don't know if I don't think I'll necessarily be in LA long term, but like, I'm gonna live here. Like, I'm gonna live in California. Like, this is where I see the rest of my life because this is all I've known. And where else do you go except downhill?
I mean, how many times have we just like talked about, you know,
moving
just
to Atlanta?
We're gonna move to Atlanta. Or we're gonna go here, and we're gonna just podcast and, you know, have not even just Atlanta. We've talked about going to smaller cities where the cost of living isn't as high. You know, you kind of just say things, but I don't know the way that the caller delivered the information. Like, I want to live somewhere else. If it was like, you know, kind of in the way that we talk. I mean, we're on Zillow all the time looking at other places, but if you were like serious, like I'm moving, and you told him like this is, you know, a deal breaker, that when I'm ready to move, I'm going to move. And if you don't want to come with me, I understand. But that's the end of the relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't present it as like a deal breaker, then I don't see how what he's saying is unreasonable.
No, because like the responsibility is on you for that. And like that's the reason why I brought it up to Mott's and he was like, oh no, it's because it was like, if that was a thing, I would have said that. Like I would have, it's not a deal breaker. It's not like, it's kind of like a fantasy thing I've talked about. Like that's not what I want to do, whatever. But if it was, that would have been his responsibility to communicate that like with me ahead of time. The same way that I think if you either want to have kids or you don't want to have kids, like that is something that you need to communicate with your partner ahead of time before you get to that point where like, if these are these deal breaker things, like you need to know that first because people aren't making like those, they're not making those decisions. But the way that you've talked about this instance is not, and I say this lovingly, this isn't how you have these conversations when you are in a long-term relationship that you do see with marriage and kids. Like you don't tell your partner, hey, I'm moving. Like that's a conversation you have as a couple. Like that is something like if you're planning for your life together, like it's we. And like marriage, sure, having a ring, being engaged, that can mean something. Like marriage. Yes, those are documents that are very important, but like you don't have to be married or to have a partnership. Like lots of marriages aren't partnerships and lots of partnerships aren't like marriages. But like if that is what you want, like that, this is not like I told him that I took a job and I'm moving. Like that's not how it goes. Like it has to be a conversation between the two of you because
dialogue.
It's he has as much agency and choice as you do. And like right now you're valuing your financial career and this is something that you want to do. But like, what if he doesn't want to be far away from like his friends? Like, what if he really likes where like you're valuing like, well, this like me making more money will be good for us. Like we can make more money here, but like you are staying at your current job and this will be a great place for you to grow. But then he has to quit his job, find a new job there, find a new friend circle there. Like your team is moving to Australia. Like you have built-in work friends there. Like you are saying that you feel like you are just a puzzle piece in his life. I feel like he's seemingly like a puzzle piece in your life. Like you're trying to fit him into this thing that you want to do. And I don't think that like, I think if you didn't want to have a conversation together and make the choice together to move, if your instinct was just like, I'm going to take this is what I want to do, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But you're not ready to be in the kind of partnership that you're talking about. Like that is an independent decision and that's fine. Like make those independent decisions. If like you're so secure in that it's like this is what's going to happen. This is what I'm going to do. He shouldn't tell you I don't think that if he tells you like, no, don't move, that's something that you should listen to if this is what you want to do. But you can't make a call for you and then expect it to also be the right call for him. Because like, you're both two independent individuals. And if you're not going to make these choices together that you can both agree on, you shouldn't be asking him to move with you. It should be we made this choice together. And this is like, we're going to move. This isn't like he's tacking on to my plans. Like this is something that we planned together. And like, yeah, I think it needed to be like the only time that I would be like you're saying, like if you had these conversations and you seriously told him like my plan, I just want to know before we get into this relationship, like I plan to move abroad for at least like 4 to 5 years. And I want to do that in the next year or so. Like I'm going to be pursuing companies that are going to be expanding over abroad and have those opportunities. Like unless he was like, I'm all game. Like I want to do that too. Like I'd love to do that. And you talk about that together. And then he says no. That also, I don't think is horrendous. It's just kind of like, when push comes to shove and you end up in the moment, you realize like, oh shit, I don't actually really want to upheave my whole life onto this brand new journey because it's going to be a whole new experience for him versus you. It's just a partial new experience, but it's a whole new life that he has to build. But you have to have those conversations ahead of time. Like Mons and I have had this before where it's like, we talk about all the time of like, okay, if I booked a job in this city, what would we do here? And like, what would we do if it's this? And he would be like, I would move to this city. If you worked here, I would probably get another job, but I would do bi-coastal. Like we like talked about it extensively. And that's something that like, if you don't give him agency in making these decisions, that then it's not it's not our life and it's not our decisions and like our plans, it's your plans. And that's okay. Yeah. You can have your plans, but your plans start and end with you.
Yep. And it feels like you're like, I'm the breadwinner of this relationship. So what I say goes.
Yeah. It's giving like toxic man vibe energy. And like, I think career growth is like really great, but money, I know this whole money isn't everything is not a true statement, because money helps. It gives you access to solve almost all of your problems, but it doesn't solve all of your problems. And it also creates new ones.
Mm-hmm.
You making more money, does that outweigh and outvalue, like, what if he's so lonely? Like, what if he's miserable? Like, what if he hates it there? Like, have you gone through that process of this? Or are you just looking at, like, what are the extreme benefits for both of you, career-wise and financially? Because, like, your life isn't your career. Like, that, like, it might be for you in this moment, or it might be like what kind of how your mindset is. Like Melissa and I are both live to work people, don't work to live. Like we love what we do. But at the end of the day, like I love my career and I love what I do, but it's never going to be prioritized above like people that I love and like my relationships and like my integrity and like my morals with that. And like my career is great and fantastic. And I love what I do. But I can always do that. That's my control. These are the things that I can always do. But when it comes to like interpersonal relationships, if you don't prioritize that and value those while they're here, you're going to be incredibly successful in your career. But I don't know that you're going to feel really fulfilled in your relationship, because that doesn't translate. Like being successful in your career doesn't mean that that carries over to like how your relationship does. Last thing I'll say, 1 year, if you had called in and said, I got this job and like I've been dating this guy for a year, he's great, we've talked about marriage and kids, I don't know what to do. If that was where this call ended, I would be like, you've been together for a year. This is your job. This will advance your career. Like move, like do this, like do your solo thing, move. It's a year. You don't know where you're going to be. You're still kind of in the honeymoon phase of a relationship. Like don't make life-altering decisions around a 1 year long relationship. It feels like a long time. It's truly not that long. And that would be my advice. Like my advice is literally what you're doing, just minus the trying to kind of bring him along for the ride and he doesn't want to.
Yeah. Because 4 years is a long time.
It's
even if
you've only been together for a year.
It's 4 times longer than what your relationship is. But even if, things, that's a lot to do when you're in a relationship. And then moving is an adjustment as it is, but moving to a completely different country, that's a lot to bank on somebody that you've known for 1 year.
Yeah, you rely on that relationship so heavily. And like, I moved to someone who we've been together for like almost 7 years. And like, it was a fucking hard, like that was really, really hard. And we moved within our own city. But like when you're relying on the only social aspect is a relationship that you've had for a year, you're assuming that this is where your relationship is going to be like in 4 years. And like, you can talk about marriage and kids and like, you can want that. But I also think that, I don't know. I personally don't think that every person you meet that you could see yourself getting married to and have kids with, I don't think that's like that, oh, they're the one. Like, I don't at all. Like, I think you've known him for a year and the person you've known for a year is someone that you could see yourself getting married and having kids with. But like, you don't know him after 2 years. You don't know him after X amount of, like all of this kind of stuff. I think it could ruin everything for both of you. Like it could be like the relationship blows up and therefore you hate Australia and like you hate your job and it's miserable. Like I think you're just thinking this from your perspective and how it's going to be so great for you, which then by proxy will be great for him. But like, what if what's great for him is staying here and then leaving would not be good for him? Like, would you still value that as much as you value this being good for you? You know? So.
All right.
Just a Virgo can handle it. Okay.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm calling because I'm having kind of a career crisis. I just graduated from college as a psychology major, and I work in the mental health field and have for the past 2 years. But I'm honestly so fed up with the way my company has been treating me, and I don't know what to do. So I've worked in the mental health field for 2 years with this specific company. And recently I found out that they're paying everyone that I have brought on, onboarded, and trained more than me. I talked to them about that and ended up getting a raise, but they hired more staff and gave them more benefits and paid them more than me again. And I'm just so fed up, especially when I'm working overtime every single week, 10 hours a day. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm tired. The problem I'm having, though, is I can't seem to find any positions in my field, and I don't know what I should do, if I should leave my field even though I need preparation for grad school and eventually becoming a counselor, or if I should stick out this job because it gives me direct experience that will help me apply to grad school, which I didn't get into this year because I didn't have enough direct experience. I just don't know what to do because I feel like I'm at a crossroads where if I leave my field, I might not ever be able to return to something I'm so passionate about, and I might fall behind and not be able to make enough to move out of my living situation. But I also am so drained at this current position, and I can't do it anymore, but I just don't see a way out. So I was wondering just sort of what you think I should do, if it's worth kind of toughing through it until I can find something in my field, or if I should quit and just take whatever job I can get. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, the plight of capitalism.
Yeah, this is a hard one.
Well, I think this is a hard one because I think morally, both of us have feelings, and then I think, but practically, practical advice doesn't align with my moral advice, and
exactly
that's
same.
Not what we do on this podcast. We are both very moral, cause-driven, ethically driven people, and this is kind of one of those situations where you're held down and you're put into this box that it's an impossible feat, and it's something that there's no really winning in the game of capitalism. I think you're always going to settle, and that's something that I hate, but it's just how do you play a game that's rigged?
I think what I would do is go to the company, whoever you're talking to, whoever gave you the raise, or even maybe the person that's above them. I don't know the structure of the company, and say, why is it that I've been at this company for X years? You gave me a raise, but there are people that you're hiring that don't have the experience that I have, that I'm training, and they have more benefits and a higher pay than I do. Help me understand why this is the case.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Isn't it called a project review, a review, something like that?
Yeah, but every company doesn't necessarily do that, but because that usually comes from the boss.
If you don't have that, I think it's the opportunity to be exactly. And that's checking your feelings at the door, which is a hard thing to do, but being tell me what it is that I am lacking in, or tell me what I am good at. And then tell me how that is being broken up and reflected in my salary and benefits. So I would love to know, stacked up against these people, is there something I don't know? Does this person have more experience than me here? What is going on?
Yeah, I don't think you're doing anything bad, but I wouldn't phrase it in the way that Megan said, because they might take that and then flip it on her and say, well, this is what you're not doing. This is what you don't have. Yeah, you don't deserve this. So what I would do is I would have everything that you do have all your qualifications, your experience, how you're training these people. They're using the knowledge that you have to do their job, and say, since I have all this experience and I'm the one training them and I'm doing X, Y, and Z, why am I not being compensated for that?
Yeah, I think you need to ask them explain this to me, as opposed to just not that I'm saying you said give me a raise, but this is a structure that the same issue has happened. It's just now you got paid more, but then so did other people. And so it's I need you explain this to me. And this is the thing that happens is people take advantage. And this is why being pay discrepancies so important, especially within workers together, knowing what other people make and what their benefits are. The reason why companies don't want you to know that is because then you will do this. You will then use that. And this most often happens to women who are getting paid significantly less. And it's seen as a compliment when the woman's she's a real ball buster in the room, where it's no, I shouldn't have to knock down your door and yell at you for not paying me as much as the people who work below me, who I've trained, in order to get oh, well, now she's earned it. No, I already earned it. But sometimes you do have to play the shitty fucking game of it all. But I think it's asking for an explanation versus a solution, because the explanation is then now that I've had the explanation, now what are we going to do about that? What's the solution here? I would also talk to your coworkers and the people who what their benefits are and things like that. I think you're right. You shouldn't go into what I was saying earlier, don't go into it with comparing yourself to them and what you lack with them. But I think in order to arm yourself with the best case and be the most familiar for with what you're fighting for / against, talk to your coworkers and find out okay, what was your experience here? Like, what has been like, what was your prior experience to getting this? Like, what knowledge do you have? Like, what kind of school did you go to? Like, what kind of honors were you awarded? What internships have you had? Like, all of those things that make someone like a well-rounded employee or hire or something. Factor that in. And just so you know, like what you're kind of going into about those conversations, as opposed to like for working overtime, are you getting paid for working overtime? Because if you're getting paid for working overtime and you're always working overtime, that's hey, it's time to renegotiate. My hours have clearly changed for like what the new standard and expectation is. So I think we need to have like an assessment to go over what the new compensation structure is for me for that. But at the same time, I don't know how overtime works in your industry, but a lot of the time what you get paid in overtime is significantly more than like the pay bump to cover the extra couple of hours. But that is also like, if they are expecting you to work overtime constantly, like I think it's about outlining your boundaries of being like, I can't work overtime every day. Like let's adjust my pay. Again, let's adjust my pay structure for I'm going to work until this time, 3 days a week, and then, or 4 days a week. And then every other like weekend, like twice a month, I can work this time, like this late, and we can pick what day that's going to be. It'll be Fridays, I'll work, Mondays, I'll work that late. Like every other Monday, we'll do that, and that will be reflected in your salary. Because I think that like even if you are getting paid overtime, and like it's a lot more than it normally is, the psychological effects of working so many hours over and over and over again, that I think if you can take a little bit of a pay cut, again, if you're getting paid overtime pay, so you can have it like set up clear boundaries, that might be better for your mental health.
Yeah. And I don't know how big your department is or how many people have similar jobs to you. But if everyone's working overtime, then they need to hire, because that means that is equal to if you're on salary and then everybody's working overtime, what they're doing is taking advantage of you instead of hiring an additional person. And that's just messed up.
It's also poor business practice, because I'm pretty sure, again, I don't know if it's the same in the industry, but like it costs more to pay people overtime than it would just to hire a new team member.
If they're not on salary, if they're getting paid hourly, then yes, that's true.
Oh, but if they're on...
So if they're on salary, then it doesn't matter. You work what you work.
Yeah. That would be... Wow, you're probably right. It's probably that. Oof. Because you said benefits, and most salary, you're not going to have benefits unless you're salaried. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So this is hard because like, you're right in the sense that like you need experience to get into grad school, and it seems like no places are hiring. And you're right in the sense that if you take a break, you do run the risk of like, it's why so many people don't take maternity leave anymore. Like, because like you're better off. Like some people would love to stay at home with their kids for a couple years, but they lose the momentum of their career and they can't get back on track. And it's not about how hard you try or how hard you work at it. It's like the system is literally built for like, if you jump off the train, we're leaving you behind. And like you would, we're making it so it's not possible for you to ever catch up. And like, that's the hamster wheel of capitalism. And so like, it sucks because it does apply to every job, even the things that like are the warm and fuzzy. Like mental health is obviously not a constant warm and fuzzy thing, but it's a progressive field in its concept, but like it still falls under capitalism. And so that aspect still really fucking sucks. But I think that like this job does not seem great. Like you sound really burnt out. And I think that you don't stop looking for a job, whether that's like, I know it's draining to like log onto your phone every day or go onto things every day, but like set up email alerts so you're not having to do so much like active searching, like email alerts for the job title and the city that you're in, and like get those pinged to your phone. If you have from undergrad, if you have any old contacts, like Moss gets fucking calls and emails from people who he like hasn't spoken to in years, who are like trying to get into entertainment, and they'll be like, hey, can we grab coffee? And he's like never like, oh, this is so weird. He's like, oh, they probably like want to talk about this. And like, yeah, you need those kinds of connections. And so just knowing that like whether it was like a TA or a teacher or a classmate or like anyone, everybody has to use resources and references and utilize that. Like nobody thinks it's weird. Nobody is above that. Everybody has to do it. And so if you can do that, that's also a good kind of like entryway into it. I don't know when you would apply to grad school next. Like, I don't know if you need like the rest of this calendar year and then you apply in the fall and then that's like ready for grad school. Like that would be enough. Or if you need like an additional like year on top of that. But I think if you're feeling this burnt out right now, even if you're able to like make this work for you, I don't think that you should have to make this work for you for like 2 more years. Like I think like the advice we gave early is like, that's what you need to do until you can get another job. But I think that the ultimate goal is finding another job. And maybe also, I don't know what your financial, you said like you want to save so you can eventually move out. But like, I don't know if you're paying rent or if you're like living with like family or people. I don't know if you could do some like, can you do an apprenticeship or is that also for credits? Because I know you can't, internships have to be. That. Yeah, but I wonder if there's something along the lines.
You could shadow someone. You could shadow them. I was going to say, I'm taking this kind of from somebody that's in our Facebook group when they shared this about them getting into school. They contacted the school directly to see what they needed to do, not just like the generic thing that they send, you know, sorry, you didn't get in this time because of blah, blah. Contacting the school directly and see, because the thing with grad school, just like anything, it can be about who you know as well. And if they know that you're actively trying, I've known people that have gotten into higher ed, maybe a law school, and they didn't specifically have the grades, but they knew someone that worked at the law school. So all they did was contact them and got in. So, and they're actually like very successful now. Like I said, I don't think grades mean everything, but they're like a really successful lawyer. And so building relationships with the school as well can help with your application. So, and see, like ask them like, hey, I've been working here for X, Y, and Z. I went to undergrad. I got these grades, blah, blah, blah. And see, like, just see, go to things, meet people. They have mixers. Schools have mixers. Go to those and just work your way in there. Making connections really is the key to a lot of things in life.
Yeah. If right now you're just trying to build money to eventually move out of a situation, but if you're in a situation where like you're not having to pay rent, I know we're a very money driven kind of thing, but like getting into school is a dance and like it is that kind of thing. So like sometimes that means like, if you can swing it, applying to like maybe there's an international program that you can do that sponsors you to go to like a different country and do X, Y, and Z training in this that like would still be applicable to the future grad school. Or maybe there's like a summer course you can take at the school that's like that, and then ask this teacher if you can come back and TA and do lots of different things that it's like maybe right now what you have is a lane that would give you that exact experience. But maybe what you can do is like break that off into like 3 different sectors of like, I can get this experience in this way and this experience here and this way and this way. And combined those hours together, that is a full-time job where you're doing bits and pieces through different organizations or different ways of doing that. And it might be kind of more of like a hassle and a headache, but it might be the kind of loophole and also better for your mental health than this company.
Yeah. It sucks how much we have to work the systems for everything, but
yeah,
that's the way it is. And if you want to play the game, you got to get in the game.
And you also don't have an option. You have to play the game. That's like the part that's so hard that like lots of people want to work to live. And I'm willing to jump through so many hoops because like I live to work and do all of that stuff. But like the fact that people...
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go network by listening today. Look for the Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
People have to jump through hoops and they're like, I don't even want to do this. Like, I just have to. Like this, the end result's not going to be worth the effort that it takes. but you seem really passionate about your career. And like, I'm very thankful that that's like how I am, because like, I don't think that one is better than the other. I really I fucking respect people with the boundaries who are just like, yeah, no, I like work to live. Like that's how Sydney is. And I'm just like, you're like the freeingness, that nature of it. Like, wow. And I know that it pays off for me, and it's still excruciating and so fucking hard. And like when it's not, that's not your mindset. Like it's just fucking bullshit. So we have a lot of people who work in the psychology field though. So if you are a part of the psychology field, I'm pretty sure maybe it's the one that you're referencing, but we did have someone in the group who did, I didn't originally get into grad school and then I got in. If you original caller, if you are in the Facebook group and you want to make a post, I am so sure that person will reach out to you, whether it's a private message or not. And I'm sure tons of people would love to offer any of their insight. Again, we have so many psych majors and people who work in this field. So if you would like a fast pass to our Facebook group, just apply and shoot us a DM on the podcast account to let us know. You have to pass like the requirements, but
just like the world as it is. This is how you.
We are capitalist scum, so we are playing the game. You have to pass. But we want to offer like our own like community for connections as much as possible.
Yeah. All right. So time for a break.
Woo! Okay, we'll be back. We're back from our break. Let's get into the rest of the calls. Roll the tapes.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I'm a 25-year-old female Gemini that uses she, her pronouns, and I do not know what to do about my boyfriend's fear of flying. For context, he's a 25-year-old Pisces, and we've been together for just over 1 year, but first met when we were 15. I love traveling, and since I live in the Midwest, flying is currently the easiest option since I don't have enough PTO for long road trips. Also, I've never left the country, but it's a huge dream and goal of mine. Since my boyfriend and I have been following each other on social since we were 15, I had seen him go on numerous airline trips with his family over the years. So I was really shocked when we started dating, and he said flying was a huge fear of his. During that conversation, he also said his desire to travel was low, so I should focus on traveling with my friends instead of him, and then if we did travel, he would prefer we did so by car. I love going on trips with my girlfriends and going on road trips, but the problem is that I have some out-of-state weddings coming up that he would be my +1 to. They are very far away, so flying is the only transportation option that makes sense. Also, if our relationship works out, it has been a childhood dream of mine to be proposed to or honeymoon in Hawaii. Not to be high maintenance, but a road trip honeymoon in the United States just sounds like my own worst nightmare. I just don't know how to approach the situation because I don't want to completely disregard his fear towards flying. I'm just conflicted because he has flown numerous times before in his life and won't with me. I will also note that this fear might be motion sickness related. What I don't know is if he actually feels sick from the plane's movement or because he psychs himself out beforehand due to anxiety. I'm just not sure what to do, so I'd appreciate any and all help. Love the podcast, and thank you both so much.
Should we get the Hawaii PSA out of the way first?
You can do that, yeah.
Unless you are a native Hawaiian, do not go to Hawaii. Hawaii is illegally occupied. I mean, much of this country is legally occupied if we want to get into that. But if you want to get into like the true technicalities of illegally occupied within the last small time range, that is Hawaii, and it is been transformed into a naval base. That's how we've been able to stay there. And also Mormon missionaries have just gone to insert themselves and convert people there. But Hawaii is constantly being depleted of its resources. Locals cannot buy homes. The economy is tanking. The health infrastructure and system, because it's an island, is suffering. The myth that tourism is what keeps Hawaii alive is completely false. Hawaii was thriving wonderfully, beautifully before it was colonized, and treating colonization as the reason why Hawaii is successful as opposed to the reason why Hawaii and local Hawaiians are struggling as just completely idiotic. Like, it's just backwards. And please just listen to Native Hawaiians who will repeatedly tell you to just stop coming. And Hawaii is a beautiful place. I've been to Hawaii as a kid, and this is something that I have learned from research. And also, like, I think if you haven't heard about this in the last year, I would really implore you to do some self-inventory about the narratives and voices you hear in your life, because this is something that like anytime someone tells me they've never heard about this, I'm like, how? Like, it's just so, unless you only talk to other like white people constantly and like you have no other, it's like telling me I don't know, that's like telling me you don't know like about the Black Lives Matter movement. I'm kind of just like, where the fuck have you been? Like, what do you mean? And so it's a beautiful place that is not for us and it's not our place. And like, we can admire the pictures and see how absolutely beautiful it is, but do not actively contribute to harming the community who's literally screaming from the fucking rooftops, like, leave us alone. And yeah, you can appreciate from afar.
And I also just want to say, don't want to assume that you're white. You can't be they can't be another ethnicity. So, and a person of color that's non-white.
And even from don't take everything take this with a grain of salt because I'm just a white girl from California, but from the natives that I have followed their belief system of people who are Native Hawaiian, if you are a Native Hawaiian who currently does not live on any of the islands and you have family that still lives there, then like they're like, sure, come visit, see your family. But that's like, you stay with your families, you don't contribute money to like the hotel chains, like all of that. Just like, that's what that is. But there's so many creators talking about it and like so much that you can research online. This is a beautiful place for Native Hawaiians. And like, that's who it's for. And like, we can admire from afar. So yeah.
All right. So, I also have a fear of flying, but I know that that's the only way I can see my family without getting in a car, which is also dangerous as a woman traveling by myself. And it's a completely 24-hour trip if I was to do it. I mean, I go visit friends and stuff, but I have severe anxiety when it comes to flying. I'm person that's sitting there like praying the whole time and hyperventilating and everything. But in the way that you said that, you know, taking a road trip is your own worst nightmare, you don't want to do it. That's how he feels about flying. And so he probably went on trips with family because they forced him to go when he was younger. And so if they're forcing him to go, he doesn't have a say in that. And he was probably very anxious. You said you don't know if it was from anxiety or from motion sickness. Ask him. He told you, he was upfront about it, was like, if you want to go on trips, I don't want to go on trips where I have to fly. I do that with your friends. He told you that. And now you're crossing the line. He put up his boundaries. You're not taking his boundaries in account because you have this fantasy of traveling with him when he told you that's not what he wants to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like his family, other people disrespecting his boundaries is not an invitation for you to disrespect them. Like with family, it can be really hard. You can be forced. It can be something that you had no choice and you had no option to. And his family could know that he has a fear and they don't care. And I think that like, if anything, seeing that he has flown before, and then if this was like in my relationship and like seeing that he had flown before and then saying that he's like setting those clear boundaries and like letting me know ahead of time, it would be like, I have seen you fly. Like what I would love, like, tell me about that experience. That must have really sucked that you had to go through this kind of stuff. And like, but the fact that he would still feel open to then tell you this, as opposed to like continue to let his boundaries be disrespected by people. Like, I think that shows like, I think that's incredible. Like, and so I think that like we have to like listen to people. Like, you don't know more than him. He's not trying to like pull a fast one on you. And like Melissa said, like he's been up front since the beginning. And just because like you like get vaccinated and you're caught up on all of that stuff doesn't mean that you don't have anxiety about needles. Like, it's just like that is something where it's like, if there was something that he really, really, really needed to go to, that it was like outweighed what like that fear for him, where it was like, maybe it's like a funeral that he can't get to. Like maybe there is something and that time might not be now. It could be 20 years in the future, or it could like never happen. But there might be a time where he wants to try something that's out of his comfort zone and he gets to like decide his own boundaries. But like, that's up to him. Like overcoming a fear and a phobia, like it is not done for the convenience of others or for other people. Like that's just more anxiety inducing. And that's just so much more pressure. And a +1 to a wedding, like we've said this before on the podcast, but like, I think we have, like you said, these like fantasy ideas of what we see these things at, but like you need to look at the reality. The reality is he's absolutely petrified of flying. Are you going to have a good time on a flight with him while he is like just a sheer ball of anxiety? Are you going to feel good about taking him on a plane for a wedding of your friend who he maybe doesn't even know, isn't that close to? Like the weeks leading up to it, the anxiety of him the weeks leading up to it. Then when he gets there, the anxiety that's there. Like, do you think he's going to have a good time at the wedding?
And then he's going to have to turn around and do it again.
And are you going to have fun? Like, are you going to have fun knowing that this person that you really care about is like miserable and that was like what you wanted? Because I don't think that's what you want. Like, I think like in your head, this is something that can be fixed. And like, well, I want him to be my plus one at a wedding. It'll be great and it'll be fun. But like, you can't talk about it in fantasies. Like the practicality of it is like, sure, he could be your plus one at a wedding and you'd have to drag him onto a plane. He would be complete anxiety beforehand, during, and afterwards. And it's going to be miserable for both of you. Is that fun?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the plus one you're going to get. You can't mold it to be any different. Like, is that what you want? Because that's what you have. But that's like all there is to it. And so like, again, like I don't know. Phobias are something that I think always should be respected with boundaries. And if this is a deal breaker to you, that like he can't fly and he can't travel, then I think that's something you need to talk with yourself about. But also, I don't know. I respect like anyone's like deal breakers, but like I think if that is a deal breaker of yours, I would evaluate in the same sense that like flying is really hard for people who are disabled or people who are sick. So would that also become a deal breaker for you? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that's just like, it's a slippery slope when it's something like this that is like, a phobia needs to be treated like a mental health thing. Because it is. Like, it truly is.
Because it is.
Would someone who have depression be a deal breaker for you? Like, there's a difference between someone who like is actively choosing to not work on their mental health and is being destructive to you and everybody else around them. But like, this is a personal phobia that only like that this is applies to his life and he's set up these clear boundaries. And are there other like, is someone who has like OCD a deal breaker to you? Like these intrusive thoughts that maybe only have like to do with him and his life? Like it's just a really slippery slope. So even if this is a deal breaker for you, I would have a conversation with yourself where psychological deal breakers start and end when they're not harming anyone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So whatever weddings you're going to, I promise you, as someone who's been a plus one to a wedding, if it's your friend group or you know a ton of people there, you will have more fun with just your friends. Like you don't need to bring a plus one. Sometimes family weddings, like if it's awkward, like it's a lot easier to have a plus one there. But especially early on in a relationship, I promise it's not missing out on that much. Like you'll have, like he said, like prioritize the stuff with your friends. You'll have more fun.
Right. All right. Next one.
Hi, Meghan and Melissa. I'm going through kind of a tough situation right now. So basically, my boyfriend and I, we're in a 4-year long distance relationship. And granted, like we are kind of young. I'm just out of college. So, you know, I'm in my early 20s. But I'm going through a really hard situation because I'm feeling kind of blindsided. You know, we were still doing long distance, but this summer we were finally going to be living in the same city. We were literally like weeks away from being in the same city finally. We both got new jobs. I felt like, you know, all of this time that we'd put into our relationship, this future we were working towards was finally coming to fruition. And then he, out of the blue, told me that he feels like he needs time alone and he feels like he's never going to be ready to be in a long-term relationship that ends in marriage and like kids and things like that unless he has some time for himself. And while I totally respect that and I like reiterated it to him multiple times, we did obviously, you know, we had multiple conversations about our breakup because, you know, it was a 4-year relationship. It was, you know, we were working towards something. It wasn't just something, oh, we're seeing, you know, we're just seeing where this goes. You know, we were putting in effort so that we could ultimately, you know, be together in the long term. So I was feeling very blindsided. And then it was kind of weird because throughout the week that we were talking and having our breakup discussions, he was still like kind of okay with the sexual aspects of our relationship and still like asking me for like pictures and like wanting to like sext and things like that. And then he told me that one night when we were talking and stuff, he told me that he wasn't sure if he wanted to break up, or he said that he might want to like maybe try and make things work, kind of referring to the sexual part of the relationship. But then he like really quickly was just like, oh yeah, I'm just thinking with my dick, like, you know, don't worry about it. Like, never mind, I take it back, essentially. And
And then the next day we had like our final breakup conversation, and he didn't want to meet in person. And we just ended up having a 15-minute phone call. And of course I was upset and crying, and he was like, we can talk later if you want. But yeah, I'm just feeling very blindsided, feeling very disrespected. So if you have any insight in the situation, anything to like make me feel better, that would be great. Love you both.
Fuck this guy. Like, I don't think it'll make you feel better right now, but like, I'm so fucking glad you like didn't move in with him. Like, I'm so glad that like he let himself out of your life at this point and like did not ruin the new city and the new job and all of this stuff like for you. Like, that's the positive aspect of this, that like he's always been a piece of shit. And I'm glad that like, at least from your mindset right now, it sounds like the relationship prior to this was great, which is why you were so blindsided. I'm gonna let you know that give it a couple months and you'll start to kind of piece together things that like weren't so great in the relationship that you didn't notice. But you're young, it's 4 years, that's all of college. And it can kind of become the blueprint of relationships for you. And so like, I think the more that you date, the more you'll see that like, wow, this really wasn't like everything. But I'm glad that it wasn't like 4 years of like the worst, most toxic thing ever, that like you have had good memories. And I'm glad that the second that he was no longer capable of like having those good memories, he saw himself out. Like, I think everything he did from that point forward of being like, I don't know that I'm ready, like to move forward with blah, 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 is just like absolute garbage. And he's a piece of shit.
What does he mean that he can't be in a committed relationship without having, or have kids without having time to himself? Like, does he think that if y'all were in the same city, you would just be spending every second together? I don't think he ever wanted to be in a committed relationship with someone in the same place. You know, it's fine if you're upfront with this, about this, that you are somebody that wants to be in a relationship, but have it, you know, there are people that get married and they live in 2 different houses, if that's what you're upfront about in the beginning. And I don't understand this man. I don't understand anything. Maybe it got close to time when you're going to be in the same place and he got cold feet and didn't understand what the adjustment of being in the same place as somebody would be. And that freaked him out. But then when he takes it to the step of, but we can still send pictures. We can still have sex, as if that's okay.
That was my exact perspective. Like, I immediately, my initial thought was like, he probably moved out of his like college town like 2 weeks before you or a week before you. And he saw his friends like getting their apartments and this independence in this agency. And he got FOMO. And that was what happened. But like, no, like after everything from that point forward, I'm like, I feel like, and please just stop listening at this point if like you are in the romanticizing idea of him and like the wanting to like appreciate your relationship and like for like what it was. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, caller, stop listening to this podcast. I mean, not this whole podcast. Stop listening to this episode. And then in 6 months, you can come back and listen to the rest of this. We love you. And I'm going to give you 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, caller. You're back now and you're angry and we fucking hate him. And so now let's talk about how much we fucking hate him. You got duped for 4 years of your relationship. And if you were dating in real life, if this was not long distance, this would not have happened. Like, he specifically orchestrated a relationship that was long distance so he could do this to you. He could be a fuckboy. He could probably sleep around with other people. He could have relationships. Right. He could do all that shit. And then
with something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
He got to like fucking role play as the good guy and text you and be like the sweet, adoring boyfriend and then get that attention. And like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't want you to think that like you should have seen this coming or there were clues that you missed. Like, no, you were purposefully, like, this relationship was done because it was foolproof on his end. Like, that's what happens. Like, I saw it. Everyone who's been to college has seen it so many times. That guy who has the long distance girlfriend, and you see how he acts like the fucking whole time, and then she comes for formal or she comes for something, and he's a completely different person. And you're like, she has no idea, and it's nobody's responsibility to like carry that weight and like tell the other person, but like it's just something that fucking happens. And if you think about this as like the biggest fucking catfish ever, it's like he pulled out of the FaceTime catfish meetup date because you were going to then realize he could no longer stop lying to you. He could no longer play this role of this guy who he clearly is not, like, at all. And he wouldn't be able to keep that ruse up when you are in person. And that's why this happened and ended the way it did. And this is blindsided because he wanted you to feel blindsided, but this is not out of character. He like showed you a character, but like not his real or true character. And like this was the glimpse into that, because this is not the actions of somebody who is like feeling wistful, seeing their friends be independent, or like recognizing that like a very healthy thing is to recognize that like you want to like maybe be independent in a city for a while. But if your reason why you don't want to be with be together with your girlfriend in a city with the girl you've been dating for 4 years, because that's a lot of commitment, it means you were never committed in the first place.
Right.
And he doesn't want to give that up. I don't want to say you should feel disrespected, but like I want to validate that this is like one of the most disrespectful things I've ever heard on this podcast. Like this is like one of the biggest, like, this man, are you fucking kidding me audacity? Like if I was friends with you in real life, like I would pull up and finish that sentence however you want. But like this is what? Alligator, come on, I'm saying legal loopholes. But like this is like, of course you feel disrespected. This is so fucking disrespectful. And this is absolute bullshit. And I am so sorry that he put you through this. And I want to reiterate that like no relationship, nobody can like steal your time, waste your time, or anything like that. Like I hate the whole thing of like everything in life has to be a lesson. But like, no, like these were 4 years of like bullshit that like you went through with this guy that like was none of it. The vast majority of it came from like a really insincere, disingenuous place. But that is like life, and like these things happen, and what you can do moving forward with this, and like knowing how much better than this you deserve, and like having like holding the people that you date to a much higher standard, and knowing your worth. And he is like a complete waste of time, and it's inevitable. We will all have people who will waste our time. But the thing about that is that ensures that later down the road, we're not wasting our time with somebody else. Like someone's going to waste our time, but that's time that is allotted to be wasted. Like otherwise we would all like end up with the first person we ever laid out. It would be fucking Jacob Renesmee. We're not going to imprint on everybody we see. Like it's just bullshit. But like this is not something that anybody should ever have to go through. And this is like a really cruel way to kind of, if you want to see this as like the lessons that you learn, but I hate that because it's not like you can control anything, but like to set the standards of the people you want to date. This is a really cruel way for the universe this is a really cruel way to do that. And like, I want to make sure you know that this is like, you don't have to take this as like a badge of honor. Like this fucking sucks. This was so cruel, unneeded, unnecessary. And I wish him nothing but hell.
I wish him the worst.
The absolute fucking worst. Oh, and I just want to give you like a hug, because like imagine like you just fucking broke up and then asking for nudes and pictures. Like my mind would be fucking scrambled. I would be like that is such a fucked thing to do. Wow.
All right. Time for Don't Blame Them.
So don't blame them. This is where a listener will call in with their own advice pertaining to a call we played on a previous episode. Maybe they have personal experience or they just have something to say that we might have missed.
Hi, Meghan and Melisa. I am calling in for Don't Blame Them. I guess it's probably for season 9, episode 18, the one with the bride peed on me story. But this is also just concerning all wedding-related calls, because it seems like you guys have been getting a lot of stories between the two podcasts. So, first of all, I got married a couple years ago. I have worked some weddings. I'm friends with people in the industry. And I just want to say to the brides and grooms planning their wedding, this is one day. It's one day out of all the days you're going to share with your partner. It's an important day. It's a day to celebrate, but unless you're loaded, it's not going to go perfectly. You're not going to get everything you want. That's just reality. So do not use the excuse that you're engaged to treat people like garbage, whether it's your wedding party, your family, venue staff, wedding planner, whatever. Make a list of what you absolutely have to have and just go from there. My husband and I love food, so we spent a lot of money on the food, and we didn't really spend a lot on the flowers. We went very simple because food meant more to us. To this day, people still tell me how amazing the food was, and they don't remember what the table looks like. So when I got married, I set a budget for the entire wedding party, and I asked them day one, like, what are you willing to pay for? What is your budget? And I picked a dress for my girls. It was under $100, and they were totally fine to pay for it, because it's a dress that they're never going to wear again. And to all of the bridal party participants, if being in a wedding party is causing you immense amounts of stress and anxiety and mental distress, get out. It's not worth it. Just get out. No family or friend. It's just not worth it. So I hope this inspired people to drop out of any toxic situation. I'm running out of time. Okay. Thank you. Bye.
You still have 40 seconds.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah. This is great advice. Thank you for your insight and your clarity. I think a lot of people, once Meghan got engaged, then it kind of opened the floodgates of people sitting in wedding things. But yeah, like she said, it's one day. It's one fucking day. And the reason you're there is to get married. And the reason why you're attending someone else's wedding is just to bear witness and enjoy the time. And if it's not enjoyable, why the fuck are you doing it? That goes for anything in life, unless, you have to grin and grit your teeth through a job you hate so you can get experience to go to grad school. But yeah.
Yeah. Nobody cares about your wedding like as much as you do. Like, and to be fair, like the only person who maybe also probably cares is maybe a couple of family members, but like, let's be real, not even all of them. Like it is. And it's a really odd thing because nobody cares as much about your wedding as you do. But your wedding is hot take. Your wedding's not about you. A wedding is about the guests. Getting married is about you, but a wedding is about the guests. And if you're prioritizing your experience as like one person out of like 1/100th of like the whole day, that is not fun for absolutely anyone involved. Like, the guest forward weddings are the best ones that I've ever been to. And I will contest one thing she said where it's like, unless you have a fuckload of money, something is going to go wrong. I have been to multi-million-dollar weddings, and of the things that went wrong, they were by far the like most chaotic ones that went wrong. And like the ones that I remember, like stuff that went wrong at like other people's weddings, like I probably didn't even know about or notice, but like the most expensive weddings I've been to, like the stuff that went wrong, money can solve logistical issues. It can't a lot for people. So that's all I'll say for that one. But yeah, I keep getting on wedding TikTok, and it just like makes me feel like, so not to be like, I'm not like other girls, but it really makes me feel like I'm living on my own planet because I like can't fathom this. But like, I also think that I wish everybody could buy a house before they had a wedding, because like those are two really huge financial decisions. But I think a lot of the reason why people have funneled so much into fucking weddings is because the housing market's impossible to break into. So like a wedding is like your house. You know what I mean? Like you can't save for both. So you pick the wedding because it's more attainable. But the concept of money when it comes to like weddings, like it's like monopoly money, and it's just like a really, really fucked up industry. So, I mean, pay and tip all your wedding vendors. Like that's not what I'm saying at all. It's just the market value, the what's it called? Like price gouging, like that aspect of it is.
Anytime you put wedding or marriage in front of anything, the price goes up.
Yeah. So that is it for our episode. We hope you all enjoy. If you did, please leave a review on the podcast app. We would love to hear if you are a fan of the show. And if you've left a review before, that's totally fine. You can leave another one. If you would like to call in for an upcoming episode, leave us a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, you can send us an audio message at meghanpodcast@gmail.com. If you have an update, send us an email and we will schedule to get you on the podcast so we can talk about it. And if you are still listening, head on over to our Instagram and comment. How about you comment the best career advice that you've ever gotten? And it doesn't have to be like specific to your field. It can be totally specific to your field. Or it could just be like an overarching like concept or something that really like helped you and like with the way, doesn't necessarily mean success in like the monetary way, but like how your work-life balance, relationship, like the best advice you ever got relating to like work. I think that could be helpful for people.
That's good. I like that. All right. New review. Ready?
I'm ready.
This is from Green Leo 77. And it says, "These two get me. I love Hal, and I'm sorry I don't know how to spell your name for sake. Megan," she spelled both of our names wrong. Megan has an H in her name. I only have one S. Okay. "Megan riles me up and gets me righteously angry while Melissa keeps me calm throughout. Also, they're never wrong. Thank you. And the more I listen, the more I love what I learn about them. General Hospital fandom, amazing. Anti-ableism, top shelf. Anti-invisible ableism, 10 out of 10. I feel like I'm actively in the conversation with them, which is all anyone wants out of a podcast."
Oh my God, Green Leo 77. I love you. You're right. That brought a smile to my face too. If you want to see that smile, head on over to our Patreon. Oh, that makes me so happy. So thank you all. If you want to leave a review, go for it. Please do. It does really like make our day. We get excited. And we'll send each other like, look at the reviews. Like it's exciting. If you want to join in the community, like I said, Patreon, we have so much fun getting to like know so many of you. And it's really cool to like follow along with your lives. Like we've seen people like having like relationships, getting their doctorates. And like we get to like celebrate this kind of stuff with you. So if you felt like a parasocial relationship listening to the podcast, like that meme where you're like laughing along, that dream can become a reality in the Patreon. So
you sound like an MLM.
Yes, Megan
loves Melissa.
You know, MLM also means men loving men.
Yes, I do.
Okay, that's it. We will see you all next time. Goodbye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Post-production sound by Chris Henry. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all. I'm JJ.
Hey, guys. It's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests who share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities, to like speak of them or talk about them or in any way like portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. Like it would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Contained herein are the heresies of Radolf Buntwine, erstwhile monk turned traveling medical investigator. Join me as I study the secrets of the divine plagues and uncover the blasphemous truth that ours is not a loving God, and we are not its favored children. The heresies of Radolf Buntwine, wherever podcasts are available.